Welcome to the Nature Factory, a bio-based workshop for industry, nature, and artists. The Nature Factory poses the question of how can we foster a symbiotic relationship between the industrial production of Blackhorse Lane, the local networks of artists, and the natural ecosystem of the wetlands. The project is broken down into 5 chapters: existing fragments, bridging urban landscapes, enhancing networks, architectural symbiosis, and towards resilience. As you enter Blackhorse Road, you are greeted by a beautiful sign that says, "Welcome to the home of people who make and create," and that sets up the scene of the area that we are about to enter. Blackhorse Lane stays in the axis between strategic industrial land, the wetlands, creative enterprise zones, and also existing residents. These creates different thresholds of where industry, nature, creatives, and domesticity can connect all in one area. One of the potential sites are the industrial backyards as sites for connections. This is due to its proximity to the wetlands and no existing connections, as there is a gate that fences off the industrial land to the wetlands itself. So there's a potential to connect these two landscapes together, creating new territories and new connections for nature and industry to coexist, further enhancing the local biodiversity. Through mapping out the existing stakeholders that are on site, such as the artists and the industrial stakeholders there, we are able to see that there's a fragmented connection between them together, so there's potential to develop perhaps shared workshops where creatives and industrial production can share and cohabit the same space and utilize common resources to enhance the circularity in the economy itself. As we zoom in further, we look at the key local stakeholders, such as Warwick from Urban Winery, Lucy from Capital Granite, Harriet from Blackhorse Workshop, and James from Yonder Climbing and Workshops. As we interviewed them, we are able to see the existing spaces, how they co-inhabit their warehouses and create industrial production amongst creativity there's there. So each of the different stakeholders have also personally invested their own income and their own savings into the projects too. So we can see from this analysis that individual capital has been kind of immersed back into their businesses, and this is currently at risk due to the current master plan that's going up. And also most of these tenants have the space for around 10 to 15 years, so their leases are about to come up to an end in the near future. So there's a kind of potential to create spaces that protect them, and also all these spaces create communities that exist within the local area that could be treasured and seen as a space of civic and bringing together all the local communities together. Zooming out once again, we look at the potential areas of development and the potential site of Lockwood Way. Currently, it is not part of the master plan for high-rise residential and mixed-use developments proposed by BlackRock and the council itself. And also, it has gone through a recent urban generation through We Made That and Europa, also funded by the local council. And furthermore, it is the only part of connection through the wetlands, as therefore is catalyst for nature and urban intervention, which goes apart from my proposal of connecting industry and artists and nature once again together. As you enter Lockwood Way, you are greeted by these colorful murals that gives you a hint of the production that goes on within the area itself. Through cutting a long section in Lockwood Way, we are able to see the different actors, communities, and civic spaces in the local area here. As you go down from the topography itself, you're able to see the domestic lands merging with the industrial landscape through the Blackhorse Road and going down into the winery, which we see run by Warwick, and through the connections of the local bridge that is connected to the wetlands itself. These create different territories and different landscapes of where you can see domestic, industry, wetlands, and all of the production in the area all intervene together. As we see in an isometric view of the site, you're able to see all the existing key stakeholders and the potentials of where they lie within the axis of wetlands, local communities, and industrial production too. Analyzing the existing networks, we are able to create an urban strategy of Lockwood Way by using different phases. So phase 1, creating an urban call and an invitation where the local communities can connect. Phase 2, creating different thresholds into entering new realms within the site, so puncturing different accesses throughout so you can connect residential and industrial in a longitudinal way, and also creating an attraction landscape which is bridging the nature into the urban landscape of the wetlands itself. For my individual proposal, I decided to focus on phase 3, which is the physical connections to the wetlands. I focused on the 3 building typologies that's located within the industrial backyards connected to the flood relief channel and the wetlands itself. So I aim to look at perhaps transferring the winery, which is the center warehouse, to the other warehouse, which is currently holds the roofing supplies, which we feel that do not add to the current civic scene of Lockwood Way. Therefore, by relocating them, it does not compromise their business. Through analyzing the existing infrastructure of the warehouses and the existing stakeholders, I was able to see which part of the warehouses I was able to keep and introduce as part of the structural design of my building too. Furthermore, by looking at the local existing networks, we are able to create programs that cater best to Blackhorse Road. One of the local partnerships that the Nature Factory aim to connect with is Blackhorse Workshop. They are key precedents on how they are able to enhance existing artist networks, but also connect the communities together through different programs with SEN schools and Blackhorse responders. On top of that, they are able to create spaces for artist studios, and that filters back into creating more community workshops. So looking at them as a business model and a key model of how we can look at how space changes over time. Another precedent study that I looked at is Atelier Luma, who is designed by the same architects, are able to combine bio-based materials from the local industries together into creating materials for the building, such as sunflower seeds and indigo dye, able to create a bio-based workshop for them. This leads me to my programmatic strategies of using local biowaste as common resource. Through creating artistic studios and workshops, we are able to combine nature, industry, and community together through of bio-based making. These strategies and spaces are therefore applied onto the site, creating a connection from industry to nature with community spaces up front and more stone factory and winery in the middle, and also intersections of artist studios above these spaces. Another precedent study I look at is Parc de Villette by OMA, which they use the idea of strips and also access circulation and layering to create intersections between different layers, which is what I aim to do between the industrial production, ecological landscapes, and new artistic layers that are added on top of them. Furthermore, I was able to test out different designs and typologies on the site itself and how we can create different agencies and connections to the wetlands, and the best outcome that I've decided on will be seen in the model further on. Through the research and analysis of the site, I used a 1 to 200 models to test out my ideas. I work in 3 stages of first connecting the front and backyard through the wetlands itself by introducing an urban front and also insertion of artist studios atop and also creating a bridge to the wetlands itself. I looked at another case study, Museum Salon by RCR Architects, and how they're able to create intersections within the landscape and also how they're able to create a connection with a seamless bridge that connects the urban front together. I also looked at David Chipperfield's Royal Museum and how the interuse of layering and connections is able to create for interesting connections and views and ideas of permeability. Through the insertion of studios, I look at Kent Music School and Orme Prada in creating these kind of plug-ins that plugs itself into the existing structure, therefore maintaining the industrial production, and that goes with my main strategy of keeping the stakeholders there. This led me to my final design of the Nature Factory, which aims to connect industry, artists, and the wetlands together all in one through the use of bio-based making. On the ground floor, you're able to see where industrial production meets landscape, and on the first floor, you're able to see the intervening communal workshops leading up to the artist studios, and atop the industrial landscape which silhouettes the skyline. The design itself is built in 4 different stages, all in conjunction with the plans that the development aims to go up. So for example, if the Victorian warehouse gets demolished, the design of the sawtooth roof is carried through my design, and if the artist lease tenancy goes up, we are able to create spaces for artists where they're able to coexist within the Nature Factory. The building comprises of 5 main units throughout, which you will see later on. As you enter the building, you are greeted by the Bridge of Resource. These are community studios which provide spaces for local families and local stakeholders who can use these spaces to create workshops for their own, such as scooter teaching workshops or metalwork. As you move further into the building, you're greeted by the wine factory and artist studios. So this is the interplay between the existing winery and also creating new spaces for artist studios where they sit on top. This allows for a layering of views where you can see people working in the workshops but looking down into industrial production of winery too. Through a cross-section of the building, you're able to see how industry links itself all the way to the wetlands through different pockets of intervention, and also how artists sit above the industrial production, creating for interesting industrial intensification. The idea of layering and stacking can also be seen in the stone and maker space, where artist studios sit atop an existing stone factory which cannot be moved due to the materials and equipments being concreted into the ground itself. When entering this capital granite through the wetlands, you are greeted by almost a cascade of steps, which creates pockets for nature intervention and also the display of stone. And within the factory itself, you're able to see the interlay of bridges kind of being inputted and plugged in on top, and also the new sawtooth roof that has been introduced, creating for new light and also different spaces that's been enhanced, giving industry production almost putting it on a pedestal and seeing it as an importance. Furthermore, you can see the intersection between the stone factory and urban winery, and how community studios and artist studios sits atop them. And this creates different vertical layers leading from industry, community and creatives, all under the same roof. This is one of the views from the workshops, which you can see existing players of Blackhorse Road and their potential to come and inhabit the site, and how this also opens up views to the wetlands, which allows for inspiration and also in bio-based and natural material making too. The idea of making is further enhanced in the actual construction of the building, which aims to use bio-based materials such as beer spent grains used as insulation and wine pomace used as bricks or cladding, and also building atop the existing brick and block framework, and also utilizing the existing steel as a structure and also bricks as a potential mixed with stone and lime to use as terracotta tiles. As you reach the end of the building, you are greeted by the bird beacon, which serves itself as a central core and also a habitat for the existing nature of the area, creating spaces where there's pockets of reeds, which will attract species called the reed bunting, which are in turn connection to all the existing local wetlands of the area itself. And also these spaces can be built over time, which create a sense of resilience and sustainability for the model of the future. All in all, tying into the idea of biological circularity, which aims to connect the existing nature within the site and introduce new species into the area, which is able to enhance and connect to the wetlands itself. These units are then further tied within the central courtyard, which serves as an exhibition space and also a space where nature are able to inhabit, and also this creates a sense of communal belonging and sense of place in the area as a civic space. Over time, the expected agencies of the buildings changes throughout the day, creating a sense of the idea of light and day economy through the night economy of the winery itself, and the idea of making an artist residential studios over time. All in all, the Nature Factory serves as a new industrial typology and a testing ground for bio-based materials. Through its innovative approach, it creates new territories by bridging nature and urban landscapes, promoting biological circularity and enhancing local networks.